is a wisdom keeper and holder of patience and conscience and conscience. And deep breath. Think of the turtle diving down to the depths of the ocean, swimming around, and it just comes up for air every now and then. Turtles surfing the waves. The ocean's rolling into the beach, and there's turtles surfing in those waves. With every breath, we just dive in ourselves to the depths of wherever we're going and what's up with the bringing forth of the new, emergent, evolutionary journey that we're all on. And just enjoying the fun and the joy of, like the turtle surfing the wave. We're surfing this evolutionary wave of, I don't know, just endless energy that our guide masters are just kicking up for us. And Barbara's up there pushing us along and saying, gosh, guys, there's so much to do. Let's get with it. And so we're just doing what we're called to do. And I think I'm amazed at what's happening. So it's like, wow, appreciation and gratitude for all that we are becoming now. And so it is.
Why are you two laughing?
Who?
Oh, they're having so much fun surfing the wave.
I was only inside. I was only inside myself.
I just think that was the most Hawaiian attunement I've ever heard.
And the waves, the turtles. And
Have you ever seen the turtles actually surfing in the wave? And you know,
Yeah.
if the sun's right, you can see their shadow in the wave sometimes.
have you ever snorkeled with turtles?
I have.
That's just
Yeah.
like really magical.
Turtles are special, you know. They always just keep on going, and they win. They win the race.
They don't mind going slow either.
They don't mind going slow.
However, we're not in slow motion anymore.
I feel like I'm like gonna go to sleep. No, okay.
I want to give a shout out to our Midwest turtles too. There's other turtles that aren't in the ocean that are
Right.
around here.
Box turtles.
Snapping turtles, sandhill turtles. There's all kinds of turtles around here.
I have a lot of frogs.
And lots of frogs.
Lots of frogs in the backside there.
All right, take us through our
Yeah,
agenda.
Let's rock it.
Shel,
Rock
do
this
you
baby.
done?
Well, first of all, I just want to say again, just like thank you for this container that all of us are holding for the connection field so incredibly beautifully. And the fact that anyone can pop in at any moment. And I just got off a call that there were two people on just the phone and there was no names. And I was like, I wonder who they are. And it's just amazing how just something can just pop someone in that moment to just come out of their shell, right? To come out of their shell, to pop their head out. And that's what happened just before I got on this call. So I'm just really feeling blessed, and thank you everyone. And thank you like Glenn and Linda and John. I mean, Julie, like everything, we're just playing our roles really beautifully, I feel like, and listening. And so this call for me is just listening to the bits of feedback, little things that are popping up that we can just hone for everybody. And acknowledge Marian's coming in and wanting to help us get the donation page going. So as far as you want me to share what some of the things that.
One item, but yeah, go through your list and we'll just.
Okay, so I mean, it seems like we definitely need to. Julie and I were talking about connecting with Chief Phil Lane again, because the bandwidth is going to start to fill, and on the calendar, and we have some new mentoring stewards that are coming in, and that's exciting. Let's see. Just simply, again, just a little bit, I think I'm going to just update the hourly template, because just to remember that we need to do a little Zoom housekeeping. Like if somebody comes on and all you're seeing is a phone number, you need to tell them, let them know, like, oh, you can, if you don't know how, because some people do not know how to get that camera on, you just want to do a little Zoom housekeeping, and invite them to say, wow, we really love to put up, if you're the host, if you're willing to share, and invite them to be sharing their names, because some of that isn't happening on these calls, and it's not a bad thing, but just to gently nudge people to come out of their shell, like, what's your name? And if you're the host, put their name up on the screen, and so I did that on the last call, and it was a guy from Rhode Island, David. I don't even have any idea who he is, so I didn't get his full, but really, if you see that going on, to make sure and to tell people that, other hosts, that, that it's a very powerful thing to let them know of how the computer's working and how to get on Zoom on their phone, so that they can, if they need help, we're willing to help them. So, because there's a lot of people that really don't know, they're on getting on Zoom for the first time, they have no idea. So that was something that I noticed. And I think, I don't really have a whole lot. Mine are more, the one thing is, okay, this is important. So last year, Grace was part of the advisory, or a year and a half ago, I don't even know when, she was part of the advisory council. And I think what happened was, and she's really incredible. She's an incredible organizer. She's very methodical. Last night, she was definitely getting into the breathing, that whole other land. But I think what happened was she got slipped out of the emails. And so she just kind of felt like, well, maybe I shouldn't be here. So Julie and I were talking, and we were felt to talk to you three about, would you be willing to open that invitation to her to come and play? And the other part of that is that, she's holding really the Global Heart team. And what we've noticed is I think there's a sense of separation. And I think that she would feel really more than just inclusive, but that she has a lot to give us. And we were talking about re-inviting her back into the advisory council if it was something that she felt would do, and it would really serve good of the whole in her voice. So Julie, I don't know if you want to add anything regarding that.
No, just besides she has a lot to give us. You changed the language, serving the good of the whole. And
okay.
she does have a lot of gifts that she could use in service. And the other, so yes, I do have something to add. And then the other piece of it was that having her come into the advisory council will probably be a really good mentoring space for her to embody good of the whole. Because she still does hold things outside, like it's the Global Heart team is her thing, and yet we've said it's the whole community, and she still has not embodied and embraced what that really means and what that could be. So we thought having her come here would really help her with the vision, the bigger picture, the languaging, all the above. So,
and I just want to add one other thing was she, after the retreat, literally moments after the retreat, came running up and said, I want to be in this leadership program. I want this leadership. I want to, be that greater voice for good of the whole. So she has that within her, that she really wants to be mentored in that way. So
it was the Global Transition team, and it was the Global Transition team specialist, the Global Transition specialist program that she wanted to take, that we talked about at the retreat. So
I'm complete.
Well, I'm totally fine with it. I think she's definitely, it's obvious she's dedicated. Okay. And what gifts and talents she has, if she you know, it's not if, she would dedicate that to good of the whole. And I agree, you know, the more we do what we do, we're all being mentored and deepening. And so she's a very willing participant. She's been around for a long time. I don't see why not.
Yeah, I love Grace, and I'm all for inviting her into the advisory council.
And I don't know Grace very well, so I'm just along for the ride. So whatever goddesses, just more goddesses here for me and John to say yes to.
What gifted guys we are, Glenn.
We are.
And
We know our place.
And just so that you know, she's already given a whole program to Good of the Whole. It's called The Loving Journey, and we're holding it. She wants to upgrade it, but she already gifted it to Good of the Whole. She wants it to run through Good of the Whole. And I've spoken to her about the book that she and Michelle are writing, and they already are envisioning it moving through Good of the Whole and its expression for Good of the Whole. So that, you know, they don't foresee that, you know, more till September-ish. You know, who knows how that book goes. But anyway, just wanted to let you probably didn't know about that.
So there is sort of the time requirement. I mean, that we commit to at least an hour or hour and a half or two or whatever we do, and then other meetings as we have them. And so we kind of all dance with that. So if she's up for the dance,
Okay.
bring her to the party.
I'll invite her and re-invite her really, and see what she's got a lot going on. So whether she wants to take that on or not, I don't know. So thank you. And Julianne, that's all my agenda right now that I can think of.
So I have a brand new agenda item that I haven't even mentioned to you, Shel, but one of the things that we were going to work on is the letter to people who want to be involved and getting response to people. And I just want to bring this up, and it might not, it'll be interesting to see how it sits at first. So just breathe with this idea, especially you, Shelley. Breathe with this for a minute. So I'm not going to mention a name, but I had someone interested in being a part of Good of the Whole, interested and would love to be a part of a community and lives for the good of the whole. And it's all about wholeness and whole systems health and healing, and is a brilliant person. And several years ago, she was on one of our calls and said, so I said, so why don't you become a mentoring steward? Why don't you come work with us? And she said, your language is not my language. And how you do that call that I was on, and she didn't even know what the name of the call was. It's like, I don't even know what you call that call, but I was on that call. And that's just not me. It's not my expression. And I know her work, and she holds a beautiful field of resonance. She just enters in a different way and holds it in her own way, like many of us do. I think we're learning that on these calls, is everyone's holding the field in their own personal expression of it. And so my question is, what if we get more inclusive about inviting people in and allowing them to really feel into their own way of that? And I say that in that I know you have some documents for resonance. I know you, Shelley and John and others, the Resonance Council, want to have a resonance training, heart resonance training. But what if, and we know, I mean, Global Heart Resonance is a signature brand mostly of Shell, of what you've held for 8 years. And what if we begin to allow others in who are still all about wholeness, good of the whole, and allow them to be a part of that in their own signature way? And at the same time, we have the opportunity to train for those who say, I want to learn how to do that. I want to learn how to hold a call. Henry's a great one at that. He's an incredible advocate of creating that. So that's my question. I'm just opening that to the field where someone I love and admire chooses not to be a mentoring steward because it's a different kind of resonance. So yeah, thoughts, conversation. I don't know what that means, but we have our how we're going to hold the connection field, and we have how we want them to open and close and what have you. And we agreed that Chief Phil Lane's people could play the video, which creates the vibrational frequency that we want. And we have no idea what kind of, how they hold the field or what's going to happen. So it's like we're already open to a new way of looking at coming into resonance and holding a resonant field. So.
Elaine Farry.
Julie Down is also doing it her way in the mornings. You know, everybody does it their own way. So anybody.
I just feel it's important to be inclusive. Because if we're talking about the whole and the good of the whole, that includes people who are not exactly like us, and they shouldn't be. I like when you said everybody has their own way of expressing in the field, from the field, as the field. I know we talk about we want to vet people to make sure that they're not going to come and start espousing whatever. But I think when you know someone and you know their heart, then you know, it's important to think of the whole, to think of everyone. And yes, our language can be like, oh, okay, this is a new language and it's specifically a new language. But there's 5 of us here. You know, we want to have 5,000 here. Maybe not in the advisory council, but, you know, we want to keep bringing more people into good of the whole. And because that is for the good of the whole. And not everyone is going to have the same expression and the same expression. I'll just leave it at that. But still, you know, their heart's in the right place. And when we know that, then we are still mentoring each other and how to be accepting and, you know, considering the whole. Okay, I'm complete.
So let me add on to that. This is an experience that I'm having at this moment, basically. So I invited my friends David Vorzimer and Nancy Thompson, and now David has he didn't get it at first. And he said, well, the language. He goes, I don't quite understand the language. He said, but something's happening here that I'm not experiencing anywhere else. So I took an hour, couple hours over 2 or 3 days and did a training with David around the terminology, because he felt the resonant field, but you know, he was with that guru guy, he still is. What, Shelley, what's his name?
Maraji.
Maraji or whatever his name is.
Rampal Singh Rawat, yeah.
Okay. And so they use a different language. But now he is so understanding of resonance, good of the whole, and how what we do always fits together. Case in point, this morning, I started my call at 11 o'clock. I did a resident piece and moved in. I did a little reflection. And he came in about 15 minutes after that. At the end of the call, he called me back and he goes, my God, I get resonance. When I got on the line with you guys, you'd already been in it for 15 or 20 minutes. But because I understand what resonance is now, I dropped right in immediately. I felt the energy field that you guys had created, and he loved the consistency of it. He said, I can count on that every time, can't I? And I go, yes, you can. And so there is a certain framework, I guess, of the field that is coming through this channel that I feel is important. So I don't know, and like you said, Julie, I'm sure a lot of people feel resonance and name it from other things, but I wouldn't want to get too far off track with what we're doing from the standpoint of we really hold the container. And as Shelley and I were talking the other day, you know, we talk about the banks of the river and the flow of the energy through those banks. I don't think it's never been my goal to try to reframe the whole world. You know, we have a population of people that are going to get it and some won't. And, you know, and I love the diversity thing, bringing in lots of people from different places. And yet when people really get resonance in the language and the format, it's so consistent. There's an immediate connection with it in the connection field. I don't know. That's just my point of view.
Well, if I jump in here, I feel like we've done a really nice job with the template, and tweaking that template a little more is coming. So that's kind of waiting to see, Shell, what how you've, the next generation of the template for us to be using. I think that's really that allows a huge amount of flexibility in terms of what happens in the in the open space, and gives me that permission to be authentic in who I am. And it might be that we've got this requirement now for people to become mentoring stewards, but really what perhaps would be more helpful would be for them to be on a training call for an hour or two with John and Shelley, and whenever talking about resonance and that sort of thing. And to I don't know, for me, one of the things that I really work to embody is to speak from the I, I statements about I, as opposed to you want to be doing this or you should be doing that or whatever. And I'm really become much more sensitive to that place of speaking from me and my experience and what's going on with me, from the other language that I still hear Ken, maybe, and Nahid occasionally too, and talking about you and this, and you should be doing that, and here's what you ought to do now. That I guess more parental kinds of conversations, perhaps. I'm not sure how to say that specifically, but to have some kind of I don't know, an orientation maybe to the good of the whole field, and how we feel about the field and how we address it, and do our best to work within it, and know that we're continually expanding within it, and that acknowledgement that we're just all in here together learning and doing the best we can. I'm complete.
Okay, perfect. So I do want to speak to this, and very openly, and tying in what everyone else has said. But first I want to show you something. So orientation is the key word, because that will I'm not saying it's going to meet what you were bringing in, Julie, but I want to speak to that as well. So I wanted to share the screen, show you something, and I was going to just do one more piece to it and then send it out to the Residents Council. And John has already seen this. Okay, so here's the thing, and I want to start with looking at Ken. Ken is a perfect example. Ken did not speak really our language and was kind of, harumphy about it when he first came in and wanted to change everything. And, comes from a very, intellectual background, and, it's still about the heart. But in 1 week or week and a half, that guy is like so shifted. He's so happy to be here. He's so, he didn't get it. And same thing with John did with David. I got on a call with him for an hour and a half, and we just opened the field together. And he wrote me this amazing letter saying, I totally didn't understand this. Now I get it. And just slipped himself in. And he still is bringing in his languaging, and he's still bringing in his whole being. So to me, part of the answer is this document, which, needs to be, it's one that Henry and I started, then John and I started working on it. And I want to pass it over to even you guys. So basically, understand, and it can be, the title can be slightly different or whatever, but it's an introduction to Good of the Whole. So basically, welcome to Good of the Whole. I took this from the modules we were working on because I was trying to work on a literal training program to get people in to understand this, but that's the next step. It's not the first step. And basically, welcome to Good of the Whole, just an expression of what Good of the Whole is. Some of our mission statements, some of the statements that we talk about, and then explaining, because, if you remember Kelsey came on for, I don't even know how long, probably 3 months, was going, I don't get it. She kept being pulled in, but she was going, what is the field? I don't get the field. What is this field that you're talking about? So again, this is some of the languaging. So for me, I'm not afraid to put out that languaging. I think it's really important. Let people feel something. Let them be curious. So here, explaining a little bit, not much, a little bit about the field, introducing Nassim and Jude Caravan, and then a little bit about resonance. What are we talking about when we're talking about resonance? Again, talking about it from different angles. Jonathan Goldman, who's the musician, Renee Levi from the Resonance Project. I had a long talk, God, Glenn knows about, an hour talk with Donna Kuntz from HeartMath, which is the one piece that really needs to be brought in here. So explaining heart resonance, a little bit about human evolution, Catherine and Carolyn, so bringing in these pieces so they can just get, and this is just a draft right now, and a few questions. Why is resonance vital for building a world that works for all, or for living good as a whole, however that languaging goes? How does resonance affect an individual and a community? So we're bringing them in, we're giving them something to just kind of bite into. What are they coming into? Why are we using this language? And then the resonance practice, a pathway, understanding that what we're doing, that Monday call, and, is a pathway to our inherent wholeness, always keeping wholeness at the forefront, right? And how can resonance create momentum towards a better world? So this is what I've been working on, and with John, and then explaining the Monday morning heart resonance call. What is it? What are they coming into? And this might be a little too lengthy, and John and I were talking about breaking it up into maybe it's 3 segments or 3 parts on the website. But essentially, somebody like David, who would want to read this, would understand. And then again, this is the elements of a heart resonance circle, the reflection. So what are they coming into when they come in on Mondays? Explaining the pause, the basic guidelines. Again, this is a little bit getting, this is again a draft where I've just been sort of collaging these pieces. And then whatever we want is the next step. So they understand, maybe there's a piece about the connection field. So it should be something that's really simple. There's a lot more to this document, but it's just, I just wanted to show that first, because to me, I am all for inviting people, bring in, because actually what I say to people who tell me that I don't get your languaging, I'm not a part of your language, that's only because their world is this, a certain, they've got certain, we all have certain blinders on. But the invitation is bring in your language, help, we want to hear what you have to say. And when they feel that, they'll come in, because that's been my experience. So in terms of, inclusivity, I think it's inclusivity with, with the actually claiming what is happening here, because it's exactly why Chief Phil Lane said we were behind closed doors. How did you do? He's feeling into that resonant field because we have built this field so they will come. And to me, yeah, we're working with the people that are going to come, but we talked about, well, let's set up a meeting with the people that are coming in. Let them let us meet each other, because if you open it wide, then it's not just the one person, Julie, that you think is amazing. It's Connie and Andrew who are going to come in and they're going to advertise themselves. It's if we don't hold this field so that people can kind of feel it and soften into it. And I'm not saying be restrictive, but I'm saying holding the field, holding a certain amount of those protocols. And maybe, yes, we need to open it up a little bit more. But, I just see that there's a lot of people out there, and it will it can easily turn into just another summit of all these different people doing all these things. And it really has to be, at least right now, the building of coherence focused on wholeness. I don't care if somebody is a great speaker and and you're saying that person is, or we know Jude Caravan and we know all these amazing people, Gil, I saw him on the calls. So we want to create the field of listening so that we can hear them, and yes, bring your language in, and feel into what's already been created. Honor this, 8-year, even more than that, journey of building, allowing this super organism to have its voice, and this is its voice. And so you don't want to put people riding the turtle who don't really, have that feeling for the turtle. Obviously many people do, but anyway, that's my feeling. Not like I'm putting my foot down, really. It's just simply we've created something really beautifully, and how to write that template letter that could go to anyone. Because the other trick is if you start letting certain people in, then if you talk, you want let a lot of other people in that really don't get this. And I feel what we're holding is something incredibly precious, and it's about the whole. And we already are radiating. We're talking about another radio show or whatever we're talking about here. But another example would be someone like Elizabeth. Okay. Now, if you were to let somebody like Elizabeth, who's totally focused on the whole, but is like a total focalized water person, and we might get some of that with Chief Phil Lane's people, if she doesn't have that, conversation, have that hour and a half or hour with one of us, and help to soften those edges, help her to expand her feeling for the field, then we're going to get a rant. But it'll be a loving rant. But it'll be someone who's coming in to teach their thing. So I feel like I want to just hear what you're saying, Julian, about this person. But I would say to you, invite this person to have a call with us. Invite this, whatever works. We'd love to have a call with you. We'd like to hear what your languaging is. What is it, so that we can expand this field, but do it in a way that, we are, we, as the banks of this river, you don't want a river that's flooding. You want a river that's, beautiful and crystalline clear. And I think the resonant field is about that clarity. It is about the heart. So I feel like if you shift the way of looking at it, that it's a privilege to come into this space. And it's a joy to invite anyone. But I think it's more about our languaging, how we language to those people, come and meet us, come and feel into this. We're not saying you have to. We can look at, how do we work it with becoming a mentoring steward? Like I've been saying, don't let, to some people, you know, who I know finances is an issue, don't let that stop you. Come and talk to us. You know, what can we work out? You know, there's lots of volunteer opportunities or whatever that is. So that's my piece around this, that let's build the orientation. Let's create the videos for people to really get what this is via us as an advisory council or someone like Henry. You know, we can bring those people in. But I think this organism is wide open. And yeah, so I'm complete. Thank you for listening.
I have a couple reactions. One was a reaction when you said they have their blinders on. And I don't think you said when they can't see they have their blinders on. It's like, you know, some people literally, I think culture and language and lifestyle and choices and spirituality. And I mean, I think that everyone will enter from their path in a different way. Mm-hmm. And so saying that about the person, she doesn't have her blinders on. She doesn't have her blinders on. And then you said, Shel, that it's a privilege to come in, and it's like, how can we be inclusive if it's a privilege? So I don't know if you meant to say that word as if it's a privilege, as if it's in an entitlement type of way. But I guess my question is, I believe that your document will be a beautiful introduction for everyone. I imagine it has incredible stuff in there and holds that vibrational frequency that we're asking. My question really is can we hold? No, it's not a question. We all hold a very high vibrational frequency in very different ways anyway. So defining a resonant field or heart resonance is an important piece, because I think how you have it inside of you and your body, Shelley, is probably different than Glenn has it inside of his, and it's different than Linda has it inside of hers. It's like how we hold that is really important. So my question being, can we create the structure that allow, like, I don't know this, I'll use the example of the woman from California that wrote you yesterday.
Eva.
So you instantly said, oh, Eva's heart is so beautiful, and she would be a beautiful addition, and she could do this. And yet she's going to come in with her life experience and her expertise, and she's going to hold the field perhaps very differently until she gets acclimated to what this organism is inviting us all into for the good of the whole. So as I'm saying that, it's like the vetting process and the Connie and Andrew. It's like we could create the structure for Connie and Andrew, and perhaps that's not even enough, because what we put in the letter is all you have to do to come participate is be a mentoring steward, come on 2 Monday calls, come on 2 Wednesday calls, and have a couple connection field calls in between. That says nothing about holding the field. And
that was just the beginning of the letter. That's not fair.
No. Like, I'm not criticizing it at all. I'm just saying, and I haven't read the letter to Connie and Andrew. What I'm responding to is what we put in the Facebook. That's what I'm responding to is we said you'd be a mentoring steward and you come on these 4 calls plus a couple in between. So that doesn't discuss creating heart resonance and how we not create a field, because we're not creating the field is always there, but how we literally bring one's consciousness into the field and to experience that. So are there other ways? Nassim does it different than Barbara ever did, which does it different than Bruce Lipton, who talks about it and doesn't really bring people into it. a field. It's like, I guess that's my question is, if we're going to do a 24-hour channel, if we're going to do a 24-hour connection field, we're going to need a lot more people. So what is that minimum requirement, and how do they get that mentoring so they feel comfortable? Sharon Hardy blew us away last week. She stepped in, she did this beautiful job of attunement. She's been on our calls for a very long time. She did a beautiful job. And she says she's been doing that for years because that's been her job, her vocation. So the expressions might be different. Is the good of the whole brand important, is my question. Is the good of the whole brand of resonance and holding a high vibrational field for others, is that important to us? It's not I don't have an answer. And if it is,
I do.
and if it is, how do we get people there without the course being ready, without the, a 90-minute, we don't have the resources to literally imagine hundreds of people coming in now. We don't have the resources to do a 90-minute call with everybody individually. So that's my question. And yeah, and I'm with you on the bottom line of it. Is it's about wholeness for me and the experience of wholeness. And our brand of creating resonance is one ticket that will get you there if you buy that ticket. And I trust there are a lot of other ways. So yes, I'm complete.
So I could see I thought about it first as a handbook, but it's not a handbook. It's the Resonant Heart booklet that this document evolves into. And there's an orientation class for everyone who chooses to be a host. And that's maybe that's a 1 or 2 hour program, or, something that it's a call that happens maybe once every 2 weeks. And the hosts who have become mentoring stewards or whatever, they come to that class. When we started Geneva Group, and you guys have all heard about Geneva, we're talking back in 1985. Our second or third meeting, we opened it up to just anybody that, by then we were saying, who else wants to come? And it was like, we had like 40 people. And the energy was overwhelming. And after that, we did a reset, and we basically said that only 18 people can come to any given meeting, and only 3 of those people can be new people, as a way of containing the energy of what we were building. And so it was inclusive, although it was inclusive by, when people would ask me what Geneva Group was about, I would ask them to check in with their guides and see if they were supposed to come. Because the guides across the world all know about Geneva Group. They all know about Good of the Whole too. And so it's like checking with your guides, see if you get the nudge. And if you do, show up. So anyway, I just had this sense about the document, the piece of writing that you're doing, Shelley. And I was rereading not long ago the piece that you wrote on the resonant leadership, navigating life with love. And that's a great piece. And so I think we've got the makings of a booklet that we could invite people to. And we post it on the Facebook page, we put it on the website, read this, feel into this, and notice if you're called to come to our program to have an experience of this, and then step into your leadership role is however it emerges through you. There's a way to make that, I think, inclusive and inviting, and at the same time have boundaries on it that have to do with me asking myself, am I ready for that? And hearing myself being invited in by my guides and my mentors. Does that make any sense? There's some way to do this that we haven't, that hasn't been done. And, we're learning. And we got to start where we are, because that's the only thing we can do is just start where we are, take our best step forward, and always be open for evolvement and more. I'm complete.
This is really a tricky thing, really. Now, these are 3 observations. We started week 3 of the connection field. The first 3 times that Elizabeth came on my hour, when it got handed over to her, she was in the depth of the water. It's the resonant field. I could feel that, but it was totally water, language, and direct experience. And I could tell for some people, they dropped out of the resonant field that we created because it got very technical water stuff, and we all do that. But since then, she has really brought that in, but really stayed in the heart-centered resonance and applauds other people. So in other words, what I'm saying with that is that the best teacher is the direct experience of being in the resonant field with others. You can give them a book, you can teach it, you can do whatever, but being in that field for a certain length of time gets absorbed. Second of all, the other thing is there's some people, and God bless her, I love her, my heart goes out to her. Karen was on the call this morning, and we were really in a space. I mean, we had moved in. She left no space at all after someone spoke and went right into, well, there's this leadership thing that I've been working on, and I have 3 proposals for different leadership things, and gone. Then I had to come back in and reorient the resonant field because it was totally gone. And God bless her, I know her heart's in the right space, but would I trust her being a mentoring steward and leading? Probably not. Will she ever be able to? She's been coming to a lot of calls for a long time. I think some people can and some people can't. That's 2. Third is, well, actually, I combine the 2. I just feel like direct experience of being in the group, in the field, people all of a sudden go, not only can I do this, I feel it and want to serve the good of the whole with this, because now I've embodied it. And I think that's probably our goal. I don't know if everybody can do it, but I feel like I know I've deepened in it. Just in 2 weeks doing 4 or 5 a day. 4 or 5 a week. I've incorporated more of it, and so I just would have to imagine that experience, like anything else, really helps.
Unless you're Karen.
So I think there are some that probably not.
Karen,
I don't know. I hate to say that because I want to be so inclusive, but that channel may be somewhere else. Although I feel like she's her love is there, I don't know. Shell, you say something.
And you're on mute.
You're on mute, Shell.
So, we are in a world with a lot of mental health issues. We all, each of us have our own mental health issues, and some have more and some have less. And this is where I see eventually someone, you know, right now it feels pretty much to be myself, but where you got to go in with someone like that. And she, maybe she'll never get it, but she feels at home. She gets the frequency. And what I've noticed is the more I am truthful with her, the more how willing are each one of us willing to take the time to actually not so much help someone to be comfortable, but actually be authentic and true. Because when I got on with her, you know, and it took me a while to kind of go, okay, I mean, this person needs some definite direct help. And I took the time, you know, last week, and you guys everyone's had the experience, and she's like sort of a bottom line person here, and said, okay, look, I'll help you do this. I'll send you the photo. Let's get your picture, but, you know, let's go step by step by step. Now, the issue is, like, she thinks she has this whole thing happening. Nothing's really happening. But, you know, I would think at some point that we would have some of these mentoring stewards mentor, that's the whole point, mentor the ones that are more challenged. And by the way, I've been on a number of calls where she's gotten on. And in fact, the one I just got off, Ken, was incredible with her. And he would take her on, you know? So this is the good of the whole. This is the building of the service, that it's not necessarily for all of us. Right now, like I said, it's pretty much me, until I heard Ken talk to her today, because she kind of took the whole thing off exactly the way you described. She just pulls all the energy out. And that's what we're here. That's the expertise of this resonant field. We know how to hold it. We know how to bring it back. Some of us have spent years on this, you know, working with even Victoria and Ron, and the Vistar Foundation was all about this collective consciousness. And you had to have 1 to 2 others on your call that could hold the field, that could always weave it back in, because there are always going to be those that take it out. So that's my feeling. And what I saw because I think it's like when I get wiped out or you get wiped out, all of a sudden there's Ken who's coming. The field will, just the way you described the sandhill cranes, and we know about the birds, that one person will come in and support. Or I could call Ken and say, hey, maybe you could help a little bit with Karen, help her upgrade her, you know. But if we aren't truthful, like if I've been way more truthful with Karen, you know, lovingly truthful to say, hey, and I'm going to have to be lovingly truthful with Elizabeth a little bit, you know, stop teaching. You don't need to be teaching here. Open your heart, open the field. And we worked on that last night on her blurb for this amazing offering that's going to be offered through here. So I think this is I love what everyone's saying. And I do feel that, you know, I mean, what you're describing, John, is the 3 words we've used, or the 4 words: experience, embody, and express your wholeness. It is those key words, and that's what's gonna, you know. So anyway, wherever we go with this, I'm happy we're having this conversation and flushing it out, because I don't want to be exclusive, but I know, like, sometimes I just hear that field talking, and it's just like, stay true to how we've worked with that superorganism to create in resonance, that it's you know, it's become a vital force. You know, I think it's a both and. It's not like, and that's something that nobody understands. You know, even that's what we're holding here. That's even to the most intelligent, amazing Craig Hamilton, or all those people that are amazing out there. They don't have this, and we know it. We've experienced it in sign, and you know. So I just want us to, like, trust that piece, you know, and still open up, talk about it, have these conversations, you know. And there will be exceptions, no question, to the template that we create, the orientation. That I love what Glenn was saying. Yeah, let's have once a week orientation. So, and again, that template that we created was only because we were like, all of a sudden had to do something here. Oh my God. So we're going to be upgrading this and updating this template. But that was perfect, Glenn, which is, yeah, starting next week, because we have this many new people, I don't know, maybe it's obviously it's going to be one of us, but you know, to hold an orientation so we don't have to be doing it one-on-one. That actually is more draining, you know, but they're going to get what they get. So
I'm hearing a tweak. I think this is an orientation for all mentoring stewards, not just those hosting a call. This is, as new mentoring stewards come on, we have an orientation and they totally understand, at least philosophically, what's going on. And then literally that experience, like John says, coming in and experiencing the field helps to co-mentor that. And if we had a orientation for all mentoring stewards, I think that would make our life so much easier.
mm-hmm.
So I think that's what we're calling in right now, because the only way to make this super organism sustainable is to get thousands of mentoring stewards on board, and then to get the hundreds or however many of those co-creative partners on board as organizations that are coming in and partnering with us co-creatively. So yeah,
Yeah, I love it.
it's an orientation.
I totally love it.
And I could feel that orientation being for me and for us as well. So it really brings everybody in to the same starting spot, the same place. And we've all heard the same languaging. We've all get it collectively. And not everybody will be able to be at that one orientation that we do. So maybe it's a weekly thing for a while, or it's a every other week thing, but make it easy on yourself, because
Lori does it all the time. Every day of the week, she's orientating people and inviting them in and bringing, you know, you're doing it all the time, Shell. But if you did it once a week and it was a small group of 6 or 12 people,
Mm-hmm.
it
But we have video. Hello. We start videoing. We do a couple of
I think there's something about a live orientation.
Okay, it's true.
I was thinking about that too. Like, oh, we have the video, and then, oh, I watched the video. Yeah, you know, I watched it. You know, it's not that
Okay.
live.
Okay, perfect. A live orientation. That's
You,
perfect.
you know,
And they get that booklet.
I joined Good of the Whole in December of 2018. I did a lot of weekly calls and everything else. My orientation was in whenever our retreat was, September, August, September. That was an incredible orientation. That field was so strong then, and it was like everything that you all did followed the program. Speak, be quiet, listen, take space, all of the pieces. So I'm all for orientation. I think that is just a fantastic idea. I want to go through it again myself. I'd lead it, I'd co-lead it. 3 or 4 of us come together, hold the field, and give it for 6 or 8 new people coming in. If we do it once a week, once a month, I don't know, but wow, that's a great idea.
So I have a question about that, John. You said the word give it. We give it to you know, we hold the space and we give it to them. And I
charge them for it?
No. That's not what I meant. It's not like, you know, yes, we're holding space for them to invite them in so that they can experience it. And this whole conversation, first, I love the idea of an orientation. I think I brought that up last time, that we can invite them in and just, you know, be on this kind of call, but it's specific orientation to what it is to be a mentoring steward and what it is to experience this resonant field and how to practice moving from your thinking mind into your feeling heart and then merging them together. But when, like the example of Karen or someone who's in their head and wants to get on their soapbox, thank you for the thumbs up, cute, is that, you know, you can, you know, when someone's speaking from yes, they want to share all the information that they have, but it's coming from their head. It's coming from their ego, basically. It's coming from their, I have knowledge, and that's what I meant about, I don't want it to be, we have knowledge and we want to give it to you. That's what I meant when it struck me as what we're giving to people. So
Great experience.
it's an experience, and for all of us together to experience and to let people know we're all experiencing this together. This reminds me of and it just like thrills me. But the first retreat that we had for Good of the Whole at the lake house, where we sat in a circle and said, what is this? What are we creating? What is Good of the Whole? And it was the mothership, and we were trying. And I think now we don't have to try. It's that trying that goofs us up. It's just the settling into knowing how to be in this field and hold the field. And I think it would be such a joy to invite, mentoring stewards to experience this. To me, it takes away that hierarchy that we're the advisory council, but we're still learning and we're still mentoring stewards. And there's mentoring stewards who haven't experienced this. Not that we're inviting them in to be the advisory council, but to experience what we know we're trying to teach them to do. I think it's be extremely valuable. I love the document, Shelley. It's great. I can't wait to get my hands on it because I feel like I want to know more about the language, and I've been hanging out with it, but I want to, that's that part of my brain that says, give me that information so I can sift through it and then, embody it.
Well, that's what I mean about giving. When I said give, not as if there's superiority giving something, but,
Gifting.
there are better words, I'm sure, sharing or whatever. However, there are parameters that through experience, it is a giving, it's an offering, it's a sharing. And that's all I meant by that. I wasn't trying to be hierarchical. I apologize for that.
But you just sparked that in me. I know you weren't.
I like the word modeling.
Modeling.
It's a model.
This new word is soul modeling. Instead of role model, soul modeling. But we could incorporate video snippets into the training. We can have some testimonies of people's experience. We could have people teaching on their expertise. And so that we always have some basic components down so that the languaging is perfect every time. Like if we're talking about the field or heart resonance or whatever, and then someone facilitating the experience live. Now that we know we can play videos clearly on Zoom, because that's so exciting. It's like the revelation of the year that I'm so excited about. Thank you, Shelley. So, yeah.
I just want to invite, sorry.
Go ahead, no.
Sorry, my mother's calling. We're having a birthday dinner, but not for a while. So something that I just want to bring in here, because just remembering that our focus is wholeness. So in some ways, and and don't tear this apart, just ride this out a little bit. It's like this whole thing of mind, body, spirit, and coming from the head to the heart is still part of, in some ways, part of it. Like what we're talking about is whole systems health. We're talking, we have to stop actually modeling and using that language because, and it's obviously, I'm all about the heart. There's no question. But what I'm experiencing and what I'm speaking more about is the whole living circulatory system, the understanding, the relationship between all of it as a living whole system, and not separating and listening for, it's a more of a listening field kind of thing, like listening for what is that new languaging? Because if we are standing at the edge of evolution, which is really what Good of the Whole is all about, it's inviting people to, and really all we're doing is offerings, really, but we're inviting people to feel what it feels like to stand at that edge of evolution, to stand at that at the shoreline of their own being to, you know, like everything we've been saying, trust and everything else. But if we go into the old languaging of the longest thing is the head to the heart, you know, we are missing something that this organism wants to speak about. Wants to speak about.
He's down there.
So I think what's really beautiful, like everyone's saying, is that we are learning, we are being informed by the field as the keepers of the field. The field trusts us, you know, and so we're weaving our wisdom and we're passing it down to the mentoring stewards, and we're, you know, we hold the first orientation and they get what it feels like. Oh, okay, so we're and I'm in no rush to try and get millions of people in here. You know, do we trust the field enough that it knows that attractor field, just the way Phil Lane showed up and wants to bring all these people in? We didn't do anything different, you know, but we have to stand at the shoreline at the edge of evolution's going like, come on guys, now let's go. So for me, I really want to invite us to really feel into, and I loved, I think it's William Tagle, I'm not sure, Julie, you probably, the eco field. We are living eco fields of this resonant frequency, which is and only speaks to nature's design, which is wholeness, which is transmutation, which is all the things. So I just felt like it was really important to like up level our languaging, you know, and that's, Julie, what you brought in. It's like, okay, you know, because that newness is always bringing in some peace. Just the way how did it bring in on that other call, you know, I can't think of the words, never mind. But you know, when jazz musicians, when they are all jamming together, they're
the jazz. Symphony?
No, or when you're an actor and you're
Improv.
Improv. Thank you very much. I couldn't think. So we are all, what we're really holding the field for is this living improv experience that, you know, is the experience of the intelligence. So we are being mentored and we're introducing to them. That's probably the difference. And maybe this is why Henry was so confused. I had this aha, because really we are being co-mentored by the field itself. And that's what we're introducing people to. And it's different than, oh, just go to your intuition. That's part of it for sure. But there's something really great. So I'm done.
So is anybody jumping in? Because
I just wanted to say something really quick, that I am in a hurry to get the 1,000 people, not million, but 1,000 new mentors in. So I can, yeah, I'm ready. I'm in a hurry. Sorry, Shell.
No, it's fine. It's, I mean, that's
Open the
fine.
floodgates.
I think they're out there and they're ready.
Yeah, I mean, I just trust that if it's 1,000 tomorrow, like we are in you know, we're in training the field will just be ready and we'll do the next thing we need to do, and those people are going to come. I'm not, it's just a little different, but it's not that I'm against that. It's just that.
Go ahead.
I
Go ahead, Linda.
I just want to follow what Shelley said something earlier. And you were kind of kidding around it. You said, I don't know, I think I intimidate people. I don't know why. I think I intimidate people. And it's like, could it be that you are on the edge and that your language is such that the person who's trying to get there can't quite get there? So maybe there's that bridge of someone talking about moving from the head to the heart, where a lot of people are trying to figure out where they are before they can make that huge evolutionary leap that you're talking about. Yes, we're modeling it, but there's something about expecting and holding someone's hand and helping them. Instead of, I'm up here and if you don't get the language, you know, they're still going to be kind of like, I don't get it.
Okay, I'm not saying that, but that's your role to talk about the, you know, the head to the heart. And I talk about it too. I'm not saying that really. It's just, you know, I would like to invite something, because I've been noticing something on this call, like taking apart, like there's one word that or there's something that that bothers you, or there's a reaction to, and like not going after that, because it feels like a little bit that's been happening, because I don't know. Because in fact, for me, like, I'm the one who's brought in most people last week. I mean, I brought in all these new mentoring, not a lot, but a few. And my, I think there's a mixture of, it's not fear. I think there's a mixture of the energy that I've taken on. But when I'm working with people on one-on-one, and when I'm talking, I'm not doing that. I'm completely coming. If they need to hear about the head and the heart, they're going to hear about the head and the heart. It's just here. It's more helping us to just, really, I guess it took me a long time to really, and Julie knows this, to really get this piece about wholeness. And I have seen the depth of people who are so rigid and so whatever, but when they get that, when they have that experience of wholeness, it is a transmutational shift that happens, an embodied shift that happens in their body. And I can, at least the people that I've known, as an example, like who do all the heart math stuff, that experience isn't necessarily, it's focused on the heart and resonance, but this piece about wholeness, this piece that Jude Currivan holds with so much understanding, and that we've been gifted, is a really different way of, is a shift of communication to people. And I've been testing it out more and more within myself, and then with other people, and it's something I've never seen in all the things that I've done, and all the people that I've come in contact with, that this is the gift of this super organism. So yeah, so I hear you. And obviously, like Julie said, we all have our personal holographic expression, and that absolutely has to be honored. And at the same time, yeah, just something else, incomplete. Everyone's really quiet.
So thinking about this orientation, it emerges to me that the orientation will evolve probably quite rapidly. And what we would encourage all mentoring stewards to do is to repeat the orientation frequently, to see where we are now.
Participated
See where
anytime.
we are now, so that mentoring stewards can come back to it, encourage to come back to it again and again and again. And then it's a basic, it's a leadership experience which will be evolving as we evolve.
I want to just add a different element to where we were just a minute ago with Shelley, and quoting or acknowledging Jude Currivan, which I acknowledge a lot. I mean, obviously, I love and adore her. And I love and adore Shelley Ostroff talking about whole systems health, and Jude Currivan talking about a whole world view. And I love and adore them. And we are beyond that, where we hold three important pieces, where we're holding the experience of wholeness in the center. Imagine these three circles crossing. I have this in the new documents, where you imagine the Vesica Pisces and then the third one coming in. And in the center is our experience of wholeness. And then on one hand is whole systems health, of what that means for our world. It's like us in community as whole systems health. We have to upgrade our systems into a whole systems health. How do we do that? We have to create that mental function, that belief, that understanding of our world, which is the whole world view. So we have whole systems health, whole world view, and then we have our prescription, which is living for the good of the whole. So that's the third circle. And when those three circles emerge from that experience of wholeness that we're talking about in the middle, the embodiment, the experience, the embodiment, and the expression of wholeness, which is in the center of that, we can create whole systems health. We can shift the whole worldview, and we can live for the good of the whole. So this is like our prescription, if we're saying wholeness is the medicine of our time. And I think that's what we have that others are not expressing, that others are not writing about, that others are not teaching about, and putting those three. A lot of people will do integral theory and okay, you're a teal, or you're the spiral dynamics, or a lot of people are talking about consciousness, and consciousness is built into all of those. So I just, just applaud what Shel said about wholeness, and challenge all of us to really embody that as our language. That's what I started to do on my healing field Wednesday night, was to say, even looking at mind, body, spirit is really old and in separation consciousness. Everything on the planet up till now was created in a consciousness of separation. Everything, our language, our systems, our forms, structures, our relationships, everything. So as we're rethinking everything, we need to keep those components in mind as we're looking at that. Like, how do we recreate education? Well, look at this new format, and does it fit? Is it with those three circles, the whole system's health, and representing a whole worldview, and really having its individual members living for the good of the whole business. I mean, we can go into all of it, but so I just want to say yay to what Shel just said. You're on this side of me, Shelley, that we have the capacity to really lead in that way. And I think that's our call. And that's what's creating this very strong resonant field that will attract others, is that it is about wholeness in a whole new way,
Thank you, Julie.
A whole
That was perfect. I mean, that really is clear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
seems to me part of our challenge is that as for me, as I'm learning myself to embody this, and my challenge and opportunity is the expression of that, and to language that in ways that, Shelley, you've got an amazing vocabulary and language about that I'll never have. And emerging through me, like the whole housing conversation, and how is it we learn to live, livingly, and what do we build? What's there? So there's all this emergent stuff, and I'm just learning how to talk about it and express it and embody it.
There's some new offerings that I will propose to you guys coming soon, that I'm not like coming soon, like that needs to, I think, manifest, is some offerings that give us the ability to develop that together as a collective. So it's kind of like, if we have this new orientation, that's awesome. And what about a rethink tank? And what about like having a place where people can literally come and rethink how they're doing things? And we hold those pieces up for them, and they come into it and they go, I get it now. And I create a clear path out of that, from that portal. So there's a lot of new ways that we can express that, Glenn. I hear you on the language, and I do think we need to teach our language. And like I said, if people come in with different paths, then how, so we need the function to help kind of tease that out for everybody. And I'm complete.
So do you feel like we could start an orientation? I mean, it seems like there's a couple of pieces here that need to become like really clear. Like, I think if you guys are willing, I'll just clean up that document a little bit more and just send it to you. And the idea is that you feel into that as if you were someone coming in. Are you, you know, and if you have a line or a paragraph or something you feel like needs to be in there, just take that document and just use a different color or whatever, highlight it, and you know, send it back so that, you know, by the end of this weekend that it could at least be somewhat possibly usable, you know. And also I want to send it to the resident council because I want them to feel into it, and just like I'll just gather that information and try and create something, and it may need to be in 2 different parts or whatever. So that's one piece of that. It doesn't have to be a booklet yet, but it can be a document that when we have that orientation, it gets sent to everybody, you know, and knowing that it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's giving someone enough information that they could like understand. And then we have to like sort of at least hone in on that template letter. Not that and now we're, you know, well, now we're looking at, okay, we're having this orientation, so obviously that's the number one, you know, come to this orientation. And so I'm just inviting us to all muse with that. What is it? Is it an hour and a half orientation? Is it an hour? Is it 45 minutes? And it would seem to me we could at least kind of, as an outline, use that document as an outline just to kind of feed the field, because, you know, not everybody's going to get it all in once, or, you know, we need to, but I feel like we can, you know, with all of our wisdom, basically, that we can hone that document so that it's usable, because I do think it's important. And just, did you send it to David, John? Okay, did you get any feedback? Okay, so John and I were talking, we sent it to David. So, and hopefully you'll check back in, but ask him for, like, from someone from the outside reading that, what part of it's clear, where is it missing? You know, where do you get confused? You know, because I think that we need a couple of those beta, or at least, you know, David will be a great one because he's you know, very intellectual and very well spoken and eloquent, and I think he'll help us. Maybe we can even get on a call with him, John, or something.
Yeah, I'm going to talk with him. He's going to be on the men's group tonight. We're going to talk afterwards.
Okay,
Which
cool.
David are you talking about?
David Vorsimer is a friend of mine that's been on some of the calls now and has gotten very interested in Good of the Whole as an organization. And he's always been very intuitive, but he's now really getting resonance for the first time, although he's been in the resident field, and it's because he's studying the language of what I've offered him and talked to him about. And so after the last pieces that Shelley and I kind of went over on that document, I sent it to him because he was asking for information. So I sent it to him, and now I want to get feedback about, after he's gone through it, what he feels about it, as if it was helpful or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would love to do a call with him just to like go through it, like,
Yeah, which I think would be great.
if he would be willing.
He definitely would be willing.
So anyway,
And then
Send it to us as soon as you can.
I'll send it maybe even tonight, but I'll work on it tomorrow morning. And yeah.
so I know it's the resonance and field, and there's that, and I think we need to add then about the structural and the philosophy and the theory of why Good of the Whole, like that piece of.
Just add it in, Julie.
I don't want to be too long for an orientation, but a lot of people go, what is Good of the Whole? And the vision is very clear, and yet it's like, okay, so we're building.
And again, sorry.
Go ahead. I'm done. I'm complete.
Yeah, so add in, each one of us have our pieces, so add it in, and it still can be whole. Even some of it may be too much for just one document, and that's going to be part of the modules. But I have another document that I took from that and already compiled it for just this exact thing, for just an orientation for someone. So yeah, we'll play with it. See if we can. Awesome.
I'm wondering if we just don't slot it in next week in one of our time slots. And we have an orientation slot at a time that works for you guys. And we just put it in the Google Calendar.
I'm thinking Wednesday mornings on our mentoring stewards call and begin.
I don't think so. I'm not sure about that because really? Oh, it just started in the mentoring stewards. Wow. Maybe.
Get their feedback. I don't know. During one of the slots for the connection field feels manipulative.
No, but here's where it could go. Like it could go, you know, we have that bandwidth from 11 to 12 that we have the Global Heart Resonance and we get the coherence call. It could be Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday, like maybe a Thursday morning.
Not Thursday, Pamela.
What?
Not Thursdays, because that will be Pamela.
Oh, okay. So whatever. Maybe it's Tuesday.
Or it could be a Friday.
Yeah, probably it should be the beginning of the week, but
And I
or
would
it could be a Friday.
on a Tuesday, but
And we might want to do one in the morning, one in the evening. I don't know, but just for people who are different time zones. But to just start out. So I think it's a good idea. I think we can just say this isn't perfected, but we're having this and invite them. I don't know. Let's just muse with it a little bit. Because I could see where the mentoring stewards are already on. They all come on Wednesday anyway.
Right.
And we explain to them that we are creating an orientation for people coming in, the new people, and you know, share that document with them, take a look at it, you know, and just build it out from there. Yeah, it might work that way, Julie.
That makes sense to me, is to begin to introduce it while we have them, while everybody is together, the mentoring stewards, on the Wednesday call.
Rather than asking them to get on another separate call.
Right. Another hour and a half or whatever.
Yeah, and then we're inviting them to actually, for their vision and expertise, they're already experiencing it. Like I could even do a cool survey, like with some of those things that are in that document, getting more information from them, asking them to fill it out so that we can build it out. So anyway.
So will the new stewards be on the Wednesday call?
Well, most of them already are. I think the newest one is Elizabeth. Is there anyone else that came?
you have Jess.
Jess.
And then we have Adam and Shanti Hart, but they have not come on.
I'll talk to Shanti Hart. I don't know what she's doing. And
Do you want me to talk to Adam?
well, we were going to just go back to that thread and ask him, like, let's get together with you and I.
Why couldn't he come on Wednesday?
He could, but I don't know that he really, I think it would be, I don't know. Yeah, he could.
Dive it into the deep end right away.
All right, try it.
Yeah, I'll talk to him.
So what else is on our agenda?
I think we're pretty, I'm cooked and it's my mom's birthday. So
I'm
Happy
cooked as
birthday.
well.
Tapped
I
out.
gotta
I think we've done
men's
enough
group is
tonight.
running here in a couple hours. Are we going to have a retreat this year? Or it's probably so crazy to even think about that.
Yeah. I mean, to me, you're coming to a very safe place in the world, but you are all coming from your places, bringing what you have. If anybody has been exposed to me,
We don't know yet.
yeah, it's
Let's
hard.
plan an online retreat. Let's plan a 2-day online retreat. I mean, that's the best thing we could do right now at some point. I mean,
That would
but
be
also,
right. That would be right.
and we could do it. It would be awesome because we know we're awesome.
Like September, October?
It would have to be October because that caravan of 2020
Oh, that caravan.
is still trying to make it happen. I mean, they're hoping that there's enough.
All right.
I don't
Well,
know. I don't know if we'll-
just a bug in the ear.
I've thought about it a lot and looked at the calendar. And the Unity, I'll talk with Ben tomorrow night. I don't know I know they're trying to make it work, but
They said they were going to wait till, on the call that I was on with them, they're holding out to June to make a decision. That was the last word I heard.
which is really difficult because so many people have to rent spaces to have events. And I need to rent space if we're going to have it in the park.
And this is really an unknown, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
too,
Yeah. And someone said, was it you, Glenn, last week, that the large groups of X amount of people may not happen for all of 2020?
that's what I think too.
What's the number? How many people?
10, whatever it is, in your local deal now. But, my son thinks we're going to be sheltering in place, the rest of the year. I don't know.
I think we can pretty well just know that we're into, into July before anyone has
Yeah.
anyone has any real clarity. That's how it feels like.
Anyone, I know this is off and we all are tired, I'm going to go. Does anyone have any information over the last couple of days about reoccurrence of COVID-19? The World Health Organization was going to investigate somewhere over in Asia where they've had multiple cases where they were positive, then got negative and were released from the hospital and were positive again. Is that true? Does anybody know anything about that?
I've heard a little bit about it, but I mean, no one's really, you hear about it in sprinkles. Like I hear about it even in my personal life. I know people who think they've had it and they're better. And I've heard stories of people, but not as a, like a,
No, I've seen
Twice,
articles.
that you are not immune. Your body does not build up an immunity and you can get it twice. Have you heard that?
Mhm. I have. In Singapore, they're experiencing that apparently, and in China.
but I've heard of people who've gotten it twice.
Oh.
So that'll be interesting. I don't know. I'll ask my dad. He's watching all that all day long.
It's just starting to pick up here in Indiana.
Yep.
Northwest Indiana. So
I think we're nowhere near the peak of this thing.
Okay.
And also, I mean, the most fascinating thing that I found, if you haven't, go check out the Spanish flu and the charts from the Spanish flu in 1918 and what happened in each of the different cities. It's amazing because
Give us the synopsis version.
Huh?
Give us
the synopsis was basically that they saw the peak. They just they knew when the peak was, and when it came down. So then they loosened all their restrictions, and those big cities that did that, they had a second peak, not as high, but it was definitely a huge peak. And it didn't like Nebraska and Wyoming, different places that held on to the restrictions. They just had like a little curve, but it went, if you looked at the charts, it went up to like, it wasn't even clear to be over until like at least 16 to 18 weeks. And then that chart went to 24. That's when it really rolled. So it was a pretty long time.
And they say pretty much for sure there's going to be another bump in the fall, winter. It's going to,
flu season.
it'll hit again.
Yeah. So, I think just to be in the resident field, and I don't know, I mean, other than an online retreat to be safe, I don't think we could even really plan anything. And everyone I know who had retreats in that May and June are now moving it to September, October, November. If their retreats are in places that it can happen like that. So unless we, I think we could maybe plan something in November, but we'd have to have a place that can house people that if it's cold outside and all that, so.
Or it's warm outside.
And then it's the second.
Or it's in Hawaii, but I mean, who knows whether we'll be able to.
Yeah, it might be the second peak.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why not just relax and just keep going with what we have and just wait till we know.
Glenn, I got one thing to say. The turtle really works behind you, buddy.
I know, man. I love it.
Yeah, I'm glad
It
you
really
I
does.
totally love it. It's
I'm
awesome.
glad it's fun, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all should get whales and dolphins. Okay, I'm going.
All right.
Over
I'm
now.
tired.
You guys will be going
Happy
all
birthday
day.
to your mom.
Not even lunchtime here.
Yeah.
Blessings. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you all.
See y'all.
Thank
Aloha.
you.